see the world through other people's eyes. Now, empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.
Hi, I'm Edwin Rutsch, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and I'd like to thank you for joining us for our panel on which is part of our conference on how can we build a culture of empathy and compassion. And this is panel number 14, titled 1440 Challenge Semi-Finalists Building Empathy Together. So thank you everyone for joining me. And this is part of the 1440 challenge, which was a kind of a competition contest put on by the 1440 Foundation. And what they were doing is asking people to submit kind of applications for 3 grants that they're giving out. And there was 160 applicants. And of those 160 applicants, there were 20 semi-finalists. And so what we have here are 4, or actually 5, counting myself, of the semi-finalists. And so we're going to be talking about how we can build a culture of empathy, or how we can foster empathy together. We're going to hear a little bit about each applicant, and so I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you, everyone, for joining this.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
So I thought we'd go down the list here. So I have Ingrid. If you could just introduce yourself, your name and where you're from, and type the name of your application.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ingrid Stab. I'm based in Berkeley, California. And the name of our project is called the Strengths Factors User-Friendly Enneagram Workplace Tool.
Great. And next is on the list I have here is Lauda.
Hi, everyone. I'm here in Los Angeles, and the name of our entry is Evolutionary Conversations Equal Evolutionary Change.
Great. Thank you. And Marianne?
Hi, I'm Marianne Brusset, and I'm in New York City, right in the middle of it. And our entry is called Movie Cards, Building Better Relationships.
Great. And James?
Yes, this is James and Alicia Hadlock. We are in Park City, Utah. And the name of our application was the Living Connected app, connecting with ourselves, others, and the life we want.
Great, thank you. And you're on a iPhone, so we're not going to be having video from you, unfortunately, at this point in time. Okay, so kind of the next thing we wanted to do was just kind of talk about our experience with the 1440 challenge, like what's your experience been, and you know, what did you like, or maybe you haven't liked, or just anything you'd like to kind of share. I can just start that I've really enjoyed the competition, and I have some questions about competition in general, like does competition foster empathy, and kind of what's the relationship there? You know, sometimes you compete, and it's like, oh, I got to kind of, hold my cards, close to the vest here. And but one thing we've kind of used it for, actually, we've been using it for creating this conference and this panel. Our application is for an online conference, and we've been just doing it. We've been inviting other participants. We've had one panel before this with 1440 Challenge participants. So it's actually worked very well for kind of getting people, our supporters, kind of involved and enthusiastic about, oh yeah, we're going to root for you, or that kind of stuff. So maybe we can go down and just hear what people's experiences are. If there's someone who'd like to start, or we can start from the left here from Ingrid.
Sure. So I don't know about the rest of the panel, but I know I was so excited when I first heard about this, because I couldn't believe there was actually a contest to fund a technology project that fostered empathy, in our case in the workplace, in the 3 different arenas. We focus on the workplace. I thought, my goodness, this is exactly our project. So it was so great to know that this existed. And then since then, seeing these 165 plus other entrance, that blew my mind. I had no idea there were these many types of ideas, and so I think we're all experiencing the benefit, sort of the side benefit of finding out about each other, and now we're experiencing Edwin's empathy channel, which is great. And I would say I agree with you that it's been so helpful to us to go ahead and put together our video and our proposal, because it's helped us get support from others around us. Once they see the video and understand what we're doing, we've had a tremendous response from coaches, organizational consultants, people who might want to help make this happen. So I appreciate the opportunity to really articulate what our project is and then get the word out.
Okay, thank you, Lauda.
Oh, well, I agree. I think this has been just, it's just been a wonderful experience, and really just kind of an opportunity that fell into our laps. I work with, I'm in the field of education, so I'm working with a group of students, and it kind of just came at a certain point where we were just formulating ourselves, the work that we wanted to do, the project that we were working with. So what the contest did for us, which was really exciting, is it kind of catalyzed us into motion. We were already in motion, and it just lit something up, and it allowed us to take what we're passionate about, and like you said, Ingrid, be able to articulate it in such a way where others can understand it. So for us, it was an opportunity to really articulate our vision, articulate what we're about. We were just getting formulated at the time. So it was really a support for us in getting ourselves organized around our vision and our passion and our purpose as a community and as a group. So it served that purpose for us, which was great. And it really inspired a lot of collaboration. It inspired a lot of inspiration. And like you said, Ingrid, it was just like, wow, to have an organization that is committed to really unifying people through technology and just through relationships is beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think for me, it's just been inspiring because it's made me even more aware of my relationship skills and how I'm now becoming even more aware of how I interact with others, with myself, just by being in the contest itself. So it's doing a lot of things on several levels. And I love being here. This is so cool. This is my first little conference call. And, it's wonderful to connect. And I appreciate the opportunity. So thank you, Edwin. And thank you, you guys and the 1440 Foundation. It's a beautiful thing.
Great. Thank you. And Mary Ann, would you like to share?
Yeah, I actually have comments on both of what you said. I had little funny feelings about competition also, Edwin. So I thought I was glad they called it a challenge instead of a contest or a competition, because challenge is like, okay, this is going to bring out the best in us and really encourage us to be challenged. We all face challenges all the time, especially in relationships. So I thought, well, this is great to not be in competition with people, but instead to all be, addressing a challenge and responding to a challenge. So I love that about it. Now, is it Laura or Lauda? I'm a little confused about.
Yeah, it is confusing.
Because on the screen it says Laura.
Right. Yes, it's pronounced Lauda, even though it's spelled.
Okay.
Yes,
Great.
it's the Spanish version.
Oh, okay.
She corrected me before, so I knew that.
All right. Well, I totally agree with you about how something like this kind of catalyzes you, because we've had an idea of having a movie cards deck of some kind for maybe 25 years. We were going to do a book and we were going to do this. And it was one of those things that we always just kind of put on the back burner. And then when this came along, we thought, now's the time to really sit down and flesh out this idea and see how it could work. And of course, an app is perfect for it, we felt. And so for us as an organization, and I'm speaking, there's 3 of us here, that this is really an opportunity for us to really address something we've wanted to do for a long time. So The other part I wanted to mention is that our website, which is spiritualityandpractice.com, is about resources for people that are on spiritual journeys. And we're trying to do a lot of collaborating with groups and with other people. And we're putting together topic pages on the website for a lot of different subjects and subjects that are being covered by people that have responded to this challenge. So I feel as if I'm being introduced to all kinds of people that, you know, we can write up, we can link to, and we can learn more about. And again, it's one of those things I wouldn't probably have gotten going at unless I'd had this experience to jump into, and suddenly I'm reading people's proposals and saying, oh, we should put them on this page. So I'm looking forward to a continuing relationship with a lot of people, no matter what happens at the end of the challenge.
Oh, great, Marianne. Thank you. And James?
Yeah, thank you. You know, everything that's been said, it really echoes what my wife Alicia and I have felt. You know, in a very serendipitous way, we stumbled upon, in a very non-accidental way, onto the 1440 challenge. And as I began to read the description of what it was about, it literally sounded like what we are already doing in an analog version, meaning what we created about 4.5 years ago through Soul Circle and utilizing the Living Connected method was being described through the 1440 challenge. So when we first read about it, we were so enthused and so thrilled about, you know, the opportunity of being a catalyst, as many of you have already mentioned, a catalyst to an online version of something that we have been facilitating and experiencing with hundreds of others for a number of years now. So it really became a catalyst of something that we had talked about a couple of years ago, in fact, of having an app that really provided a safe environment for us to connect with others, connect with ourselves, and to allow ourselves to be vulnerable and to be in a place that allowed us to tap into our own wisdom and creativity, and to do that in a very empathetic way. And so just from the very onset, it felt like a tremendous fit for us. And what we discovered is it allowed us to put some intent and focus in creating something that was viable in an online community setting and through an app. And so it has been a tremendously exciting experience for us, you know, getting some of our team put together to collaborate and look at what the possibilities could be. And frankly, I think what we have discovered, and this really reaffirms that for us in this experience today with all of you in this panel, is I don't think we could echo any more than what you just mentioned, Marianne, and that is the opportunity to collaborate with others has really been a mantra of ours from the very beginning with our organization and with those that we have been already working with. And to have the opportunity to be on this call with you is an honor for us, and to have the opportunity to possibly collaborate with many of you is really, I think, a bonus that we hadn't even considered in the very beginning, but something that is very evident to us as we began reading through all the applicants and getting excited about the idea of, you know, we probably aren't as cuckoo as sometimes you might feel on the island of, you know, in our little worlds in New York or LA or Little Park City, Utah. So we are just thrilled to be here and to get to collaborate with you in whatever way that you know, however that unfolds. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, James. And so our proposal, as I mentioned, was the conference, an online conference on how to build a culture of empathy. And we invite, I should mention too, we're inviting all the other semi-finalists, and when there's the finalists, invite them too to do panel discussions. And if you would like to lead a panel and put together panels in the future, we'd love to support that. It's all around how we can nurture empathy in society. So the next part we would go into now is to really go into more depth about each of your proposals, and what is the proposal, give a little background around it. And you each have about 5 minutes, and I'll kind of keep time here and make some motions in case people are getting too enthusiastic about their proposals. And then everyone will have a chance to, kind of give feedback and empathically listen and empathically reflect what you've heard. So I guess we can start again at the other end here on my screen. Is Ingrid, would you like to begin?
Great, thanks, Edwin. So as we mentioned, this project is called the Strengths Factors User-Friendly Enneagram Workplace Tool. And I mentioned we're focused on the workplace, and I think that's an important arena for teaching empathy, because so often there's a lack of empathy in teams where people are competing with each other, seeing things from their perspective depending on what their role is or their department, and complaining about the other department or the other person. And a lot of times people can just feel like automatons in their role. They just need maybe the job for the money, but it's not allowing them to express their authentic self or really connect with others in a way that might be possible. So while there can be a lot of pain and misunderstanding in the workplace, and I want to mention that, so many of us, we spend the majority of our hours at work. It's such an important place to think about how to bring empathy in. When you do bring in empathy, it's a whole another story. People are able to be understood, to be authentic. It energizes them, it energizes others. And it starts first with the individual of understanding themselves, but then from there, understanding others. From there, the company understanding their people and showing that they care. And it can even extend then outside to not only maybe showing empathy towards customers and clients, but even you see that with the community. Some of the best organizations where they really do foster empathy, you can see they're also doing all kinds of volunteer work and caring about the community where they're based and trying to make a difference beyond just, profit. So that's our arena. But the product is called this Enneagram tool. And the Enneagram is a wonderful tool that's been used in other settings. A lot of psychologists, spiritual directors have used it outside of the workplace for transformation. And it starts with 9 Enneagram types. I can list them out quickly, and I'll tell you what the strength is of each one. So first is the perfectionist, and their strength is making improvements. The helper, their strength is attending to others' needs. The achiever, their strength is achieving a successful image. The romantic or the artist is strong at expressing individuality. They have numbers. That was number 4. Number 5 is the observer. Their strength is acquiring knowledge and synthesizing knowledge. The 6 is the questioner, and they are great at reducing risk. The 7 is the enthusiast. They're great at exploring possibilities. That's my type, so I love the possibility of this challenge. The 8 is the asserter, and they're great at maintaining clear boundaries. And the 9 is the peace seeker or the harmonizer, and they're great at maintaining harmony. And of the 9 types, the one who's just naturally has the greatest empathy to start with is the 9, the harmonizer. But really, it's something, all of us contain a little bit of all 9 types, and the more that we can understand and value these other pieces that people bring into it, the more we can also increase our own empathy for ourselves and for others. So this has been already a transformative tool that's used by hundreds of thousands of people for personal development, spiritual development. But we're trying to make it really user-friendly and business-friendly, and so this tool is has a bit of a Web 2.0 feel to it. It's familiar and comfortable. It's not too woo-woo, new agey, just because we want it to be accepted and easily understood in small offsites and small sessions, training sessions at work, to start the conversation and help people understand each other better.
It's wonderful.
Right. So it sounds like it's a real way of starting a conversation. People it's kind of the gateway into it then.
That's right. We lead with strengths because that's a little bit of a safer discussion than going right into, well, what are your weaknesses? Because people want to present themselves well at work. So we start with the strengths, but then there always is the other side of the coin, not only the weaknesses, but also what are your needs? What do you need to feel comfortable, to be heard, to communicate, to be effective? So that does open up the richer dialogue. But starting with strengths, and everyone begins by taking an online test. It's similar to what, there are a lot of other tests out there like Myers-Briggs, DISC, Strengths Finders 2.0. So it'll feel kind of familiar like some of those other tools that are used in the workplace. But this framework does have the capacity of helping much more transformation and change within people, and understanding the whole, how all these pieces come together is so important. So then this tool shows a graph. It's a really fun graph where you see the spectrum of these 9 different strengths, and then you can see everybody mapped out on there. So Laura, there she is in the red box, and she has this strength, and there's Marianne, and there's Edwin, and there's James, and there's Ingrid, and we get, by seeing it in this one printout, and you see it online, but then you can print it out when you meet in the room together. And it just opens up really interesting discussion and dialogue.
Wow. That's awesome.
So it'll be fun to do it with you guys sometime if you ever want to try it.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. I don't know if it's time for feedback.
Yeah, it's feedback time. It's open for...
I love this, Ingrid. This is so awesome. And it's...
thank you.
Really, I almost get chills because, in working with a group of beings, all having so many different personalities, energy, strengths, and, areas of growth, and being a harmonizer and an enthusiast, as you described it, I saw myself in both of those. I mean, I see myself in all of those, as you said, we have them all, right? But, as far as like harmonizing a team, it can be a challenge if you are one of, if you're leading something or if you're a facilitator or whatever, in the workplace, in my case, in education, as a teacher. So I love this tool that you guys are working with, because it really validates the strengths, and then it allows room for us to kind of like, to see where we can grow and the areas that we can grow, and who are the right people to kind of, what we can learn from each other's strengths too, in order to kind of grow in ours. And it feels like a very holistic way of getting into the conversation of like self-knowledge a little bit, like you were saying, and just appreciating each other for what we do bring to the table. And I love it. I think it's so valuable and so necessary and so needed. And within the context of empathy, it's a beautiful project. And I'm just so grateful that that you're doing it, and that you're like not in that part of the world. And I want to use it with our people. I want to use it with my team. I want to.
Oh, great. Oh, thank you, Laura.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I wanted to add too that I think what I like about the Enneagram and this idea is that it's descriptive of people. It's not making a judgment about them. In other words, and so that in itself builds empathy, because you can see, well, how sometimes somebody who is a helper a lot of times that's like considered, well, maybe that's not such a good thing. Maybe that person's too needy or something. They need, but this is just saying that's a type. The harmonizer is a type. The enthusiast, and so it opens it up. It levels the field a little bit and makes people can identify where they are on the circle, but also that they don't need to judge anyone else on the circle, because it's a descriptive tool. So I think that that's an important contribution, and the more people use those kinds of tools, the less judgmental they become. We hope.
Great. It sounds like you're already familiar with the Enneagram.
Well, I've never quite gotten it, but I do know some of the systems. But I have appreciated it. I mean, the work that I've seen done is usually on your weaknesses and so forth. So I was really happy when I read your proposal, and it was emphasizing the strengths, because I think as an entry point in business, particularly in the workplace, you want to enter with your strengths and not have people analyzing, oh, that person is this way and that's going to be a problem. But instead it's building on all these putting together a pool of strengths for a team.
Right, because people can be very vulnerable. You know, there's a lot at stake at work, and nobody wants to be pigeonholed. And, oh, you're that type, and then therefore, you know, watch out. Because, you know, everyone, even though this is a helpful tool, we're not just our type. And so we will have other parts, you know, like for myself, I'm an enthusiast, but I also have a strong perfectionist streak in me. And so, you know, everyone is like that. We have a little bit of a few. And so, to your, you know, I'm glad that you like the part about emphasizing the strengths, because then people can feel less vulnerable, hopefully, and actually be excited to show off some of their things they're able to bring to the team.
Right.
Well, great. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm going to keep us on schedule here and move on to Laura, if you'd like to share.
Sure. Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you. So our project is our project actually came out of our college classroom. I'm an educator at a professional arts college in Los Angeles, and in our one of our classes, it was a college English class, and we had we would just read very rich literature, and we would have really dynamic conversations, and the selections of the readings were really kind of to spark self-discovery and just kind of connecting to ourselves, to wisdom. And so we would have these dynamic conversations. The students would just light up, and what we started to see was that there was a tremendous amount of wisdom that we each have within us that gets to come out. And we oftentimes don't even realize how much we actually know until we're in dialogue with each other and somebody says something. And then what would happen is there was like this piece of wisdom, and it would spark something within another person. And then that would spark an insight in another student. And pretty soon we just experienced this kind of up spiraling of energy, of awareness, of insight, into really profound questions, existential questions, kind of philosophical questions. And the students just lit up. And what was starting to become very apparent to me was that the space that we had in our classroom was very different than what they get out in the world. Because what they get out in the world through the media culture and, you know, high-tech society doesn't, first of all, lend itself to connecting deeply with oneself necessarily, especially for young people, and each other in any real authentic way. So they would feel like in our classroom, wow, this is such a different environment than what I have going on outside. I don't have these conversations with my friends or with my family, and they're very enriching to me personally. So what ended up happening was, after the class was over, a bunch of students wanted to remain connected. They wanted to continue reading. They wanted to continue having conversations that were enriching and empowering, that allowed us to connect with other dimensions of ourselves, and just to have like enriching dialogue. And so we did. So we gathered together and we met, and we would have our conversations. And then soon it became apparent that the value that we were getting in the conversations, some of the students started to say, well, this is great. You know, we are here together, but what about, you know, my friends or my cousins? You know, I talked to them about this, and can they be a part of it? So we started to think about how we could make our conversations, the learning, the insight, the wisdom that was coming from our readings and from our dialogues available to more people. And so we thought, well, we can film our conversations and then we can put them up online. And so it was like, great, that sounds great. So then that became our our program, our, reading-based talk show, if you will, which is that. We have a reading selection, and then we dialogue about it, we unpack it, and then we connect it to life. And it's intended to be a program that kind of fortifies our inner selves. That, like, it's based on a holistic educational model, which is about integrating mind and heart, the inner and outer, self and community. So we're really looking to become integrated human beings, and this is just an opportunity for us to provide that space, and also the type of programming that might be a little bit more empowering, inspiring, and supportive of human beings, especially young people. So we're just looking to provide an outlet that can be that individuals can tune into, that is an alternative to the disempowering media culture that we have. The messages that we get in the media aren't very empowering. They're not inspiring. They're not supportive. And they certainly don't talk about our ability as human beings to make a difference together and individually. So we're creating that space. And it's been very enriching and very inspiring to have that. And we have a vision of basically what we want to be about is inspiring other, what we're calling evolutionary conversations. Like, we want to inspire other groups anywhere else to get together and talk, but talk about something that matters, not, gossip or, celebrity fashion or whatever. Like, there's so much power when we gather, right? There's so much power when we get to gather with each other. So we want to help inspire people to, number one, read, like texts that are empowering, and then have conversations, because we get to discover more about ourselves, more about each other through conversations and through reading. So that's kind of the picture. We want to inspire multiple little circles, because then what starts to happen, one more thing is, so this group of students, I've shown what we do to another group of students, and it inspires them. So what's happened is now it inspires action in our community. So another class who was aware of this first class, a group of students got inspired to create a school-based club. So there's this school club that is now operating that has to do with discovery and service to humanity. And there's basically, it becomes a platform for people to kind of use their gifts, come together to make a difference. So it's really, we're just getting started. The potential that I feel in here is, it's really exciting for me, because we're 100% about personal growth and 100% about being of service to humanity and using our gifts to do that. And so we're seeing what we're about actually happening. We're seeing the action being sparked by the conversations, and we're seeing groups of students gathering and actually doing something in their community, arts based kind of work. So it's just been very exciting. It's been very exciting. I mean, I could talk about it forever, but I'm sure my 5 minutes are up.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Would someone like to respond? Perhaps James, you didn't get a chance to respond to the last one. So.
Yes, thank you. And Laura, that is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And one of the things that we immediately resonate with the work that you're doing is this space that you are creating, this really a safe environment that allows for creativity and exploration, and that's just such a beautiful thing. And thank you so much. You're very inspiring.
Oh. Appreciate that.
I really like the technology component of your project, because first off, it provides access. To your point, you have this incredible, rich thing going on in this classroom, and everyone is participating, and really amazing stuff is coming out of it. But then now if you make that available on the internet, now people from around the world can participate. Exactly. It's not limited to the Los Angeles area, and And then the other thing, because you were talking about, I think you mentioned social media, but just sort of technology, how things can just be these little sound bites. But with the work that you're doing, it shows how real wisdom can be shared through technology, because what you guys are talking about is very real and very deep, very inspiring, rich. So, in a short amount of time through these short videos, quite a lot can be communicated. So I think that it can really show the power of social media.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And I just wanted to, I'm a little curious actually about what some of your readings are, even if a few authors' names or something, if you could share. I speak both because we review books on our website, but also because you're right, a lot of people aren't really reading the great wisdom teachings these days. And it's important, when you put them out on these, to show how they spark in-depth conversations and bring out people that will reinforce the value of reading and understanding. And of course, I'm thinking of the whole concept that that Parker Palmer has promoted of the third thing, this idea that sometimes it's hard for people to talk about their deepest feelings just like out of the blue. But if you give them a poem or a reading or a third thing and they respond to that, what emerges is this great wisdom and depth of feeling. So, but who are you using as authors?
A whole bunch. I mean, I can give you a list of them, and sometimes one of them, just Herman Hesse, is the one that actually sparked everything with his book Damien in our classroom, because that was such a book of self-discovery and the journey of like coming to oneself, and the challenges and all of that. So that's one of them. Emerson would be another one. Things like that. But I wanted to mention something that you said, Marianne, because I think it's really important. And the third thing, I love that. Because one of the things that we know to be true is that education is not about tests and it's not about scores. And the authentic definition of education comes from the root word educare, which means to bring forth from within. And so as educators, I believe our job, our responsibility is to create spaces where that which is within the human being gets to emerge. And it's done in a loving space, in a nurturing space of support, empathy, and appreciation. And so that's exactly what's happening. And there is something really profound when we get to, when what's within us gets to emerge, like a reading or a conversation, and because we discover a little bit about ourselves, and then we discover a little bit about each other, and then we start to realize, and this is like my passion, the more that we discover about ourselves, the more that we discover about each other, the more that we start to realize that we may have external differences, we may look different, we may have different skin color, we may come from different walks of life, but those are just perceived differences. When we actually discover more about ourselves and more about each other, then we start to realize that, wow, we actually we are unified in our shared humanity. And if we get to that space where we are shared, we are unified, and there's a oneness that we are participating in, that we are part of, and that readings and dialogue can get us there, then we start to walk around the world not seeing ourselves as separate from each other, but starting to see the beauty in one another, and start to treat one another with the kind of kindness and respect and dignity that we all deserve. And so this is what's happening, and it is inspiring, and I'm just curious to see how it continues to unfold. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to share it with you, and I appreciate your feedback. It's valuable.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, that's really the empathic process, bringing people together where they share with each other, they start seeing more deeply their common humanity. And then you mentioned taking that empathic action that comes out of that when people do connect like that. So that really resonates with the qualities of empathy. So thank you for that. Marianne, if you would like to continue.
Sure, I appreciate this opportunity to just share ideas with you, wonderful people. The 1440 Foundation, which is responsible for bringing us together in a way, is named after the idea that there are 1440 minutes in a day. And we try to make them as meaningful as possible. And I think, in my experience, some of those 1440 minutes are spent in front of screens, and not just this kind of screen, but movie screens and television screens looking at movies. So my husband and I have been reviewing films for close to 30 years now, or maybe more, 40 years more. And we've always seen movies as a way, as windows onto our world, as opportunities for engagement, that you can actually step into a movie and become part of the story if you really engage with the film. And you can allow the characters to kind of dwell in you. You could square off against some of the characters. Maybe they're representing some shadow element of yourself. And you also, movies provide this wonderful workout for your emotions. I mean, I'm a big crier in movies, so I know that when I'm touched, tears flow, and I'm happy about that. So we've always thought that movies were training grounds for emotional intelligence, for learning relationship skills, that you see models. We live in a visual culture, and more people are looking at these images and getting clues about how to behave from what they see on the television screen or the movie screen. And we're saying, let's highlight the really great mentors, the kind of moral mentors that we find in movies, and bring those and show how they demonstrate skills. So when we saw, so as I said earlier, we've always wanted to do a deck of cards that was kind of like the medicine cards in Native American tradition that show you all these different qualities that you can come. And our thought was, well, some movie, a movie like, Zorba the Greek will show you a quality of flexibility, and maybe a movie like Forrest Gump is about sincerity. I mean, Forrest is certainly sincere. And so we began to kind of play with this idea a long time ago. And then when we saw the relationship skills list for this challenge, we remembered that empathy was something we had already used movies for. During the build-up to the Iraq War, we ran a piece on our website about using movies to have empathy with the children of Iraq and also Iran. And we used movies about Iranian children, Children of Heaven and The White Balloon. And we said to people, empathy is about being able to be aware of and sensitive to the feelings of another person, to be able to know what it's like to see the world. Well, what's it like to be a child in Iraq or Iran? And these movies are portraits of that. And then a few weeks later, when the war actually started, we ran another piece in which we used war movies to try to get people to really think seriously about what we were asking troops to go through. And so we would say, watch Saving Private Ryan, or think of Gallipoli or some of these other movies. And so we realized, we've used movies for our empathy practice before. And so that became the idea of putting together a deck of cards that would be an app, and you would choose from a spread of cards a movie, and from that movie you would be given a skill that movie would illustrate. And then you'd be encouraged to see the movie, think about what you could learn from it, and then share your responses both in a journal as part of the app, but also with your social media contacts. There would be, links saying, I just got, the scent of green papaya to see, and I'm going to learn about mindfulness. Or I just received Shirley Valentine, and I'm going to learn about being optimistic. So these are all possibilities. Let me just give you a couple examples of two empathy movies. One is a movie called Freedom Riders. I don't know if any of you saw that, but it's about a Southern California teacher, idealistic teacher, and she goes into this school that they say are totally unteachable kids. And her name is Erin Gruel. It's based on a true story, and she's played in the movie by Hilary Swank. And she's trying to get into the heads of her students and understand them, but they're all split up into groups. There's the Latinos, and there's the blacks, and there's the whites, and they all don't like each other. They don't trust each other. So one day she puts a line down the middle of her classroom, and she says to the students, how many of you have ever been, how many of you have the latest, Snoop Dogg CD? Step up to the line. And so they step up. And then she says, how many of you have ever been shot at? And they step up again. How many of you have ever known anybody who was a victim of gun violence? And the students step up to the line. And how many of you have ever lost a friend to gun violence? And not as many as before, but they step up. And these kids now are looking at each other across the room, and they're seeing that they have a lot in common with the kids. It doesn't matter what race they are, what background they are. They have had similar experiences. They're learning empathy through this game. Now, this is, 5-8 minutes in the movie, but it's a scene that you never forget. And it's a scene that would remind you when you went out into your daily life to look around and say, I bet you there's people I'm meeting on the street, there's other people, we have something in common with them. And a movie can be incredibly powerful that way. The other one I just want to mention, because it's only opened a few weeks, but there's a movie called Beasts of the Southern Wild. And if you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to run out and see it. It's set in an area called the Bathtub, which is on the other side of the levees in the Louisiana Bayou. And it's about this young girl. She's 6 in the movie. She's 5 when she was cast, and she's an incredible actress. It's an amazing performance. And she and her dad kind of live in this, weird little community, and they're expecting the Katrina-like catastrophe. They're on the other side of the levees and they will be flooded when this kind of thing happens. And it actually, so the floods come, and the little girl's name is Hush Puppy, and she is trying to relate to the universe, to relate to this special place. She loves her place. She thinks it's the best place in the world. And meanwhile, her father is trying to, who's an alcoholic and a mess, and he's trying to help her be prepared for the possibility of being left alone because he's sick. So what's interesting about the film is the director said he made the movie because he always wondered what made people stay behind when there was a disaster coming. He was curious about that kind of person. He wanted to get inside their skin. And when you see this movie, you start to understand how a place could be that important to someone that they wouldn't leave, even though the floods were coming. And secondly, you see this, you look at this father and you say, the parent who wants their child to be strong and to be prepared for whatever might happen. Again, I don't have anything on the surface in common with this man.
Okay,
but
well,
I empathize with him.
I'm going to try to keep us on schedule here. Maybe get one or two kind of just reflections or feedback on that, because it sounds like you're using movies as kind of like we get empathy by seeing the movie. We empathize with the characters, and that you create kind of a dialogue through empathic dialogue between people around the
Well, that's
the
what,
movie.
yeah, that's certainly what we would hope. Yeah.
And anyone else want to just give a quick reflection or feedback?
Seems like one of the great benefits of this too is that you're creating a bit of an encyclopedia for educators. You're going through and doing the work and identifying which movies are really helpful and kind of saving them time so then they can use this, to teach classes or to teach others. So that's a wonderful part of it as well. Just you're creating the encyclopedia or I don't know what's the right word for that, but
index or
yeah, the index. Thank you.
Well, we're only going to be able to do like 40 movies in the app, but what we have built into the app will be links to our website. And on the website, we have all the movies tagged by all these various themes. So you could go and find all our empathy movies just by following the link built into the app.
Great, I think.
And we have yeah, go ahead.
I'm definitely going to use that for our empathy project. So thank you so much. I'm going to keep us on schedule here. One thing, Marianne, we're getting a little bit of static, I think, and so perhaps you could mute
Sure,
your audio.
sure.
I think that will, yeah, that's great. When we get back to you, you can unmute it. So James, if you would like to go next.
You bet. Thank you. I had mentioned a little bit before that we have an analog version that we have been sharing with the world for about 4.5 years, and it was everything about living connected came from the experiences that my wife and I, who literally got to practice this with each other. And so it wasn't anything that we had read. It was a very personal experience that we had when we came together just a little bit over 4.5 years ago. And we created this space that was a space of safety, non-judgment, and love. And so when we share the work that we do, we talk about creating the space of safety, non-judgment, and love. And what we discovered was actually an operating system. And that is called the Living Connected Method. And so rather than being fear-based, we were able to actually put a methodology to creating this space of safety, non-judgment, and love. And so the experience is called Soul Circle. And when we share it with people, there is 36 topics. And those topics range everywhere from compassion to honor to self-worth to service. And with those topics, in every circle that we've ever done, we share just 6 simple guidelines. And I'm happy to share all of those with you, but because of time, I'll just give you just an inkling of what that looks like, because in sharing these guidelines, what we have been able to do is duplicate the experience of empathy and vulnerability. And it has allowed people to really tap into their own creativity, into their own wisdom. And frankly, that is where all true transformation happens, is when it comes from the inside out. And so the Living Connected Method and the app that we have proposed to, and we're already so enthused in developing, is really based on creating a space. And so let me just share with you how we create some of those elements. One of the biggest ones is that we encourage that people share their perspective, their insight, or their experience on that topic. So whether it's honor or compassion, those are all words that we all resonate with on some level, whether it was an experience as a child, whether it's something that we have had some personal experience with a parent, or in a current relationship or a current situation. And so the topics are there to really invoke and begin the conversation. And the first thing that we share with people is that in sharing their pie or their perspective, insight, or experience, that we do not give feedback or advice. And consider the safety that there is when someone can literally be vulnerable and share their soul and even their wisdom on a certain topic. A lot of times we're inhibited because people are going to give feedback or they're going to give their own expertise about it. And when we eliminated that element, it literally changed the whole component of how it felt in this group experience. Another one that we have as part of the guidelines is we are able to show and share with people what it looks like to be compassionate listeners. And so those are just a few of the guidelines that were created when we began this whole experience with Soul Circle. And it seemed to us that it made a whole lot of sense with that same intent, that it was possible to create that type of an experience both on a personal level and also in an online community. And so the way that we have created the app, the vision of it is to literally have these 36 topics available to anyone. And we have spent considerable time creating a companion book where it asks reflective questions. And so whether somebody is by themselves or whether they want to collaborate or share their perspective, insight, or experience on a word within a community, we are able to provide that environment and are able to really create that space of safety, non-judgment, and love.
Great. Were you complete with that, James?
Yeah. I noticed the time, and I wanted to stay as close to that as possible, Edwin.
Okay.
So thank you.
Great. So what you're using is kind of a thematic exploration, a dialogue. Do I understand it correctly?
Well, I'll give you an example. For instance, we had a client today, and the topic was awareness. And so we do have some moments of reflection, and we allow for people to really take that moment to tap into their own spirit, into their own wisdom. And usually in creating that space, it allows for people to really get out of their habitual thinking, out of the worry, the anxiety, the past, and the future, and really become present with whatever the topic is. And frankly, what we've discovered is the topic became somewhat irrelevant. It was really the method behind it that was really the value, because it allowed people to, if they had something coming up for them in a relationship, for instance, it seemed that the word just allowed for the introduction to tapping into whatever that thought or perspective was. And it really invokes a lot of aha moments, those little nuggets of truth that allows you to see things for what they really are. So the word itself is really just the starting point. It allows for someone to begin the exploration, and then because of the way it's set up, whether it's in the analog version in person or through the technology with using the cards in the online community, it takes people to a place where they open up, they're vulnerable, they're able to listen to whatever's coming up for them, and then if they choose, they can share that in a meaningful way. And that is, that's really kind of the essence of discovering and creating transformation in our lives. It doesn't happen outside of us. All change happens from the inside out, and through this type of an experience, it really invokes that kind of a environment for change.
Great. Shall we open it up to others?
Correct.
Sure. Hi, James. This is Laura. I'm listening to what you're describing, and it's, it resonates on so many levels. And I just think it's, being able to create, like you said before too, creating spaces is really an art form. This amount of intuition and us, each one of us who do create spaces for others and with others. It takes such a tuning into oneself and tuning into other human beings. And so what I'm hearing from what you're describing is that not only is the space being created for others to get in touch with themselves. But it's allowing everyone that's there to actually tune into themselves even deeper just by being in that space. Spaces are so powerful in that they allow us to really tune in to ourselves and in each other, and it's such a gift what you're offering. It's a gift. It's a gift to be able to have a safe space, and like an entry point into oneself and to understanding. And I really like that whole component about, kind of not having somebody, throw their 2 cents in. There's something really, really freeing about that, because then it just allows oneself to simply be and express, and that it's valuable and it's enough. And I think that's lovely.
No, thank you. The idea of validation sometimes can interrupt the process of one going within, and whether that's negative or positive validation or feedback. And although it sounds very simple, we discovered that to continue that process of exploration, really just allowing people to be in that space collectively, but it really being a very individual type of an experience, really affords for dramatic change for oneself. And as what's interesting is the collaboration. Even though there isn't feedback, what starts to happen is someone will share an experience about a messy divorce, and that will spark something in someone else. So really, it takes people out of the mindset of thinking about what they have to say for rebuttal, and it really allows for each and every person that participates to go inward and to continue that process. And because of that, it actually does become a group experience, but in a very individual way. And there's dynamics here that we have since discovered the science behind it and the physiological things that go on. But bottom line is that people in every soul circle and with the Living Connected method, it has been very simply creating that space that provides for that deeper connection with self and with others. And I appreciate your comments, Laura. That was very kind of you. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Okay, do you want to respond, Marianne? Do you have any? Your audio is off.
It's on now, yes. Well, I have had some of that same experience with setting guidelines for a group to not have crosstalk. In other words, to not have someone either affirming or adding to your insight. And I think you really hit on an important point in terms of safety and also how revealing people will be. I think what you probably, it sounds like what you're experiencing is that once people get that guideline and begin abiding by it, that they become more and more expressive of their deep feelings and are willing to even, know that they're going to have the time and the luxury of going deeper, because they're not going to have to be thinking about, oh, is so-and-so, that Budinsky over there, are they going to add to my insight, when I really just want to try to express it as clearly as I can. So it sounds to me like you've really hit on a beautiful format that will be helpful to people.
Okay, well, thanks, Marianne. Are you still there, James? I wasn't sure if your connection got lost.
Somehow we got bumped there for a moment, but we're back.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for that. So I thought maybe in closing we would just go around and just if you have any kind of closing thoughts or comments, take about 30 seconds or a minute. Perhaps since that we're at the end, James, we could start with you.
Well, thank you. Just in final closing here, thank you so much, Edwin, for putting this together, and thank you all for allowing us to be a part of this with you. We would be very interested in continuing the conversation and seeing where that unfolds. We were committed 4.5 years ago to be very open to collaboration and staying open to the idea of working with others with the common vision of really creating the environment for the world to change. And we are committed to that. And please, Edwin, if I know that I think you've already listed other contact information, but if there's some common way to be able to interact with each other via whatever technology, then we are definitely interested in being a part of that with you. So thank you.
Thank you. Marianne, I guess we'll go the other direction on my screen at least. So.
Okay. Well, I also want to just underline what James just said about this opportunity to share and to talk. I sometimes feel because we're dealing with such an obvious popular culture thing as the movies that we're a little off the kind of mainstream mindfulness track or something. But in a sense, I feel as if all of these relationship skills that you're all bringing out through your various proposals are all things that we all work on all the time, and ourselves as well as the people that we work with. And I certainly, take that template with me when I go off to a movie and when I read a book or anything else. And so I'm happy to see all of these ways in which we're all coming at the same topic and the same goal, which is to have people build better relationships. So I'm glad to be in your company.
Thank you. Well, I guess I just want to express gratitude, definitely, Edwin, for the platform, and for everyone that's here together. There is something very beautiful that is possible when we gather, and when we share, and when we get to, like you said, Marianne, recognize that there's like a shared intention that we all have for goodness, for upliftment, for evolution, for kindness, for peace, love, harmony, beauty, creativity. These are the things that are so natural to each one of us, and we get to do it in our own unique, special way. And it's beautiful to see how each one of us is using our gifts and our passions and our talents to make a difference and to experience that sense of fulfillment when we know that we're activating our own potential, we're using our own creativity, we're using our skills to make a difference. It's a very beautiful blend. And I think this is what ultimately it's all about. It's using what we're here to, it's delivering our gifts and making a difference in the process. So to share that with others is it's an honor. So thank you for this opportunity, Edwin, and thank you, new friends, and much success in all that we all do. Thank you.
Yeah, Edwin, this has been a great opportunity to actually experience this platform and this show, the Empathy Show. And just by going through the process that you do with each of your episodes, you've helped draw out some commonality between all of our projects. And we can all see how, one thing about space, that finding a safe space for people to express their authenticity was one thing that was common. Also, through story, recognized story or archetype, whether it's through literature, movies, or through one's personality type, that we can find commonality with one another. That was really neat that this Empathy channel just brought that out by putting all four of us here on this, or six of us actually, on this show. So thanks again. It was a wonderful experience, and I look forward to staying in touch with everybody.
Okay, thank you, Ingrid. And thank you to everyone for taking part. I've also really seen how each of your proposals really is about bringing people together, getting people to connect, creating what I call the culture of empathy, where we kind of start seeing see our common humanity. And as James also said, I'm open for future collaborations, and So let's stay in touch and see what we can do to build this new culture together. So with that, I'll say goodbye and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Let's get a wave.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
See the world through other people's eyes. Now, empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.